look, all this. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. I think sis there, I know. Yeah, man, sister. Hey, folks, listen. We're gonna stop the program right now, so because we have a very, very important guest, more important than me any day of the week, and twice on Saturdays and Sundays. You have heard a lot of talk. Let me move this. You have heard a lot of talk recently about money's been missing, or not missing, unaccounted for. And you've heard about this going back some time now, particularly in January of this year. You heard about 1.7, and in February there was something else missing from municipalities. And I've said on this program many times, and I've said it on a lot of programs, that if there's one lady, well, I take that back. If there are two ladies who should be getting the highest civilian award we can give in Jamaica, two ladies, one of them is with us tonight. The other one is the Pamela Ellis. I can't remember her last. I mess up her name now. You know, I think I know myself. The Auditor General. I don't know her, man. That lady has worked tirelessly, and I heard that some people were dissing her, and I'm saying to them, shame on you. You don't know the facts, because this lady has been putting out the information. It's just that people don't read. People don't read. Go to the website. Go to the website, and you'll see that she's been doing your woman's work there. She's been fighting for the Jamaican people. She's been putting out stuff when the government not going to value for money, and a rent building and a dean of the building and a money I pay for things, and when you get no receipt and all them things. That lady, we supposed to honor that lady there.
Pamela Monroe Ellis.
Pamela Monroe Ellis, the Auditor General. We don't need to big up that lady there. No, the next lady now, one of the big up is this lady over there with me tonight. Her name is Janet Calder. She runs JAMP, the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal. Serious lady. I know this lady. This lady has no kin teeth. She's a straight shooter. She'll go tell you like it is, and she's fearless, and she's brilliant, and I love this woman to death. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let me bring on my friend, my sister, my compadre. Here she is, Miss Janet Calder. Janet, welcome.
Evening, everybody. With you, Will.
Greetings and salutations.
Yes,
well, look, first of all, I'm extremely happy that you're here with us, because for lots of reasons. I admire JAMP. I admire the stance that JAMP has taken, and I just admire how the important work that you guys are doing, and how you do it too. You know, just come out willy-nilly and just chat, as Isaac would have said. Just chat, and then people hold it to account, and then you have to backtrack and give apologies. And none of that, right? So here's what I want to talk. Here's what we want to talk to you about. We heard about, you know what? Let's start like this. When the Auditor General when she has completed an audit, walk us through the process of how that audit, you know, where it goes, how it should go, who should review it, and all of that stuff. Please walk us through so people can understand.
Yeah, it's gonna be that's an excellent place to start, by the way, Will, because context is, as Isaac would say,
context matters.
That was not deliberate set of Isaac, but it's truth, you know.
Excellent way to start.
Yeah, man, it means everything, and there's nothing that means more to me than getting the people to understand where we're coming from. My job is to not have a job in 5 years, because people have really come to understand. What I have come to understand is the accountability framework of Jamaica, which is crucial. And it's going to be a very short walk, Will, because the distance is between the Auditor General and the Parliament is a direct one. So the AG, I want folks to be clear that the Auditor General is the government's auditor. This is not somebody from outside coming and not minding her business. The Parliament, our legislators, created it, you could almost say, a long time ago, from the days of the Constitution. And her work is defined in the Financial Administration and Audit Act. That's the legislation that pretty much runs the Ministry of Finance, but also all public bodies that get our money, tells them how to spend it and sets the rules and the regulations, yeah? So between the Constitution and this this legislation, the bottom line is the AG has about 331, she would call it her audit universe. Ministries, departments of government, and public companies, which we call public bodies. Now, you have to understand it's a lot of work, so she doesn't get to do all 300 and add per year. But when she finishes a report, and there are several different types of report, only one of them is what we'll be focusing on tonight, which is the financial statements. What money you get, what you do with them. My favorite report, though, Will, is what you call performance reports, because you can get $100 million and you can only spend $100 million, and you can go and tender it and, you know, everything proper, but Jamaicans still don't get value for money. So the performance reports is the AG going one step further to tell us, did you get value or not? But we're focusing on the financial statements. Regardless of what kind of report it is, the law says when the Auditor General is finished, by the way, I should tell you that this is one of the offices in the Constitution that is highly protected, like the DPP's ISAT, but you can probably talk more about that for me. And the reason it is so protected, Jamaicans don't have to wonder, Will, this is one office that usually has bad news for government. And so if you don't mind sharp, mischief can be played with this office by the politicians. So the politicians themselves have really protected the Auditor General. No one can instruct the Auditor General of Jamaica. Nobody can tell her where to go. If a citizen has a problem, a citizen can go and say, AG, I think something is happening. It's up to her. Nobody instructs her. Nobody tells her what to do. But when she's done, herself and the 120 Jamaicans that work so hard for us, her report leaves that office and it goes straight to the Parliament of Jamaica, to a very special committee called the Public Accounts Committee, which most citizens might recognize the name of that. It goes straight to Parliament. Why? And a copy also goes to the Ministry of Finance. But why is it? This is the simple thing I want to say before I hand you back the mic, Will. It's our parliamentarians who determine who is going to get how much money out of that $1.3 trillion in the budget, right? Now, after the Parliament decides which ministry going to get how much and to do what with it, the job of the Parliament after that budget is passed is to watch the government, monitor the government to make sure that the government has spent our taxes on what the Parliament said it should be spent on while respecting the laws of the land. Now, any report coming back has to come back to the Parliament. So the AG comes back to the same Parliament who set up that budget to say, did the Ministry of Finance spend the money, the right amount, on what you say it must be spent on, while respecting the laws that protect the people money? And if anything is going wrong, the Auditor General raises the red flag so that the Parliament can step in and say to the government, hold on a minute, we have a problem, we have to fix it. And that's really what, that's a very short description of that, what we call the accountability chain and how it is supposed to work. I did not say, by the way, Will, that it is the opposition who is to raise a red flag in Parliament. I just want to close off by telling everybody, every member of Parliament has a responsibility when they get these reports, including the backbenchers on the government side, to raise the red flag and say to the minister, what is going on in this report? What are you going to do to fix it? That's the essence of how that works.
All right. Thank you so much for breaking that down so that my family members, them in St. Elizabeth, the ones who can't read and don't know how me talk, and they can understand exactly how the things run, right? And we say that because, you know, Janet, some of them can't read, but they have a PhD in common sense. And they understand when things not right. Yeah. No, Janet, I did something, I violated a certain protocol, which, and people in the chat reminded me. Normally, when somebody comes on, I said, could you please, in a few words, just tell us who you are? I just assumed that. I just wanted to get to it right away. And could you please just do that for me?
Who I am? Okay. I have many ways to describe it, but in the context of what we're talking about, I'm a proud former civil servant. I am an architect by profession.
Right.
And I worked in the Ministry of Finance for a couple of years. I fell in love with government while there, which is why I do what I do. the team here, Wilfred, and everybody listening, I spent 6 years in government, but it really impacted me because I left that space with such clarity about what a government working with a parliament can do to change lives for generations. I worked on some projects. In particular, I'll tell you one in Farkas Beach, which of all the things that I've done in government is the one that still motivates me to do what I do. With very little money, we went into Farkas Beach and we radically changed the lives of 40 families down there. They'd been there for years as fishermen. They had no light, no water, no sewage. And with a teeny amount of money that I was able to advocate for, we went down there, and before I left the government, we were able to bring in light and water. I left before we could put in the sewage, but I never forget what it meant to the people down there to get light for the first time. And as a fisherman, you come in with a catch bill. You can imagine what that does to your pocket, that you can refrigerate some fish for the next day, and how that changed their socioeconomic conditions. So I have the greatest and the deepest regard for public money and what it can do when it is well spent. I came back to Jamaica in 2012 on the invitation of the government. And while waiting for the job, I ran into some citizens who had a problem. That was under the PNP at the time. And I had the expertise in the area. And I thought, well, let me help them while they were trying to advocate on a particular issue. And that is when the advocacy bug bit, because I realized that my expertise in procurement and contracting and my knowledge of government was of a lot of help to them. And so I stayed. And so for those who might have thought, well, it's very important to close off by saying this. There are few Jamaicans who want you to believe that I started advocacy under this administration because my intention is to harm this government. JAMP started the idea of JAMP began in 2014 when Outer Many happened. Most of you will remember Outer Many under the PNP, when the NHT took $180 million and bought an entertainment facility. I organized a protest in front of NHT, and it changed my life. I decided to stick with this accountability thing. That is when I started speaking out as an individual. And by 2019, started JAMP, and here we are today. So the bulk of my advocacy time was between 2013, 14, 15, 16, was under PNP. And I'm continuing to talk on that JLP, and I'll be here after. So that's in short, guys, how I got into the business. That is what has motivated me. A love for this country and a deep, deep, deep respect for the job of a parliamentarian, which I think is the most important job in this country. Ain't no farmer, ain't no teacher, ain't no lawyer, no doctor can do well unless it's backed by good public service. And so I want the parliament to be the best it can be for us so that our lives can be better. That's basically my story.
Okay. Please tell us, how do you do what you do through JAMP, for example? How is JAMP? Yeah. How did it come into existence? How is it funded and the mandate?
Sure. We're funded primarily by the taxes of the European Union. So taxpayers of the European Union is primarily what has been driving our funding since 2019. And the rest of the bulk of it sometimes comes from the UK government. So quite a bit of the research that we're going to talk about tonight had been supplemented by funds from the UK taxpayer. The back of almost all of what JAMP does, and I want to say to folks who might hear me being, talking on these issues, will hear on the radio, on the TV, that is less than 5% of what I do. The bulk of what JAMP really is providing citizens with tools to really stand in their place as the real owners of Jamaica, the employers of all public officials, and the financiers of everything that government does. So Will talks about all of these things and does it extremely well every week. But then he leaves you with something for you to go and do. But I found that it's difficult for citizens to really stand in the space of owners that they really are of all public assets and money, and employers of all public officials. You can't exactly walk down the corridor and talk to your employees. So JAMP created a website where we have tools for citizens that they can utilize to feel more empowered. So by the time this ends, I'm going to tell you how to utilize some of them to express how you feel about this unaccounted for money. So we are narrowing the gap on JAMP's website between you and the politician. You don't have them on speed dial. I don't have them on speed dial, but there must be a way for you to effectively share how you feel about the situation. And the second thing is you need information. And JAMP's website provides a lot of information as well around accountability. So 6 tools. If I can just share an example of one, well, this JAMP's website or MP Tracker is the only place, and I'm proud of it on the one hand, but I'm ashamed on the other hand, that in 2024, after 62 years of independence, JAMP's website is the only website where you can find all 63 rather, elected representatives, something about them, where the constituency office is, what is their email address, what is their phone number, and their social media handles. Now, if they really are elected representatives, why is it took me 18 months to put that together? 18 months. And I'm not afraid to say that one party gave it to me in a week and another party took 18 months. Now, that should not be the case because you are renting all of those offices and you are paying all of those bills. And yet there's no government website that tells people how to find their MP and how to reach their MP and how to communicate with them. So usually that's how people find them. They Google them, JAMP's website comes up, and there's a page there with a profile for each and every one of them and other information that we collect on our MPs. So that's just some of what we do. But how we do it is something every citizen can do. And that is a legislation that was given to this country. I don't like it, but some people don't like that word, but it was passed in Jamaica in about 2001. Yeah, just about. And you would have heard of the access to information legislation. Now, everybody listening tonight is here because they want information. Because Will has done a good job of doing his research, bringing on guests to supply you with information that you want because you care about the governance of your country. That's why you're here. But what if Will wasn't here? And Will hasn't always been here. And what if Will decides to say something and say, "More for good tomorrow"? Should you not be able to have questions answered? Well, JAMP decided, Jeanette decided in the creation of JAMP that since government has passed a law for some 22 years now that says if a citizen of Jamaica, as a matter of fact, it's for anybody, even somebody abroad, and I know foreigners who have used it. But if you want information about your country and how it is being governed, all you have to do is you send an email to the Access to Information Officer in any ministry, department, and agency. You ask a question about anything that's bothering you, and within 30 days, they are obligated under the law to answer that question. If they're having a difficulty, they can ask you for 30 days more, but by 60 days done, by law, you are to get an answer. So let me give you an example. A lady called my office one day and she had concerns about the mosquito, the fogging, and she did some research and she felt that she needed to find out, well, what kind of chemicals in that defogger that's coming around our community. Sounds reasonable, eh? So she called JAMP because she heard me talking about this ATI Act, and she asked me, "Miss Calder, can I use this act to find out what kind of chemical is in that thing?" I said, "Of course." I showed her how to do it, and she called me back a couple of weeks, excited, Will, because she got an answer. She never think it could have worked, right? She thought she would have to call somebody, top on her to find out for her. No, the law says they're obligated to answer you. Do we get all our answers answered? No. But I think we have sent almost 1,000 ATIs out by now, but we get 80% of them answered. So that is the main way, Will, in which we do what we do. Government is obligated to answer us, and we have created a website with 6 tools based on the information we get to help other citizens. That's it.
You know what, Jeanette? I'm so glad that you mentioned ATI because I don't know if you recall.
I do.
Folks, let me just tell you, folks, Jeanette and I were at a Zoom conference, just the two of us.
Yeah.
And she was walking me through the portal on JAMP and how to access the ATI and all of that stuff. Wonderful portal. In fact, Jeanette, I'm gonna be doing a little tutoring this Monday. I have a small group.
Fabulous.
that I meet with, and we're going to be using JAMP's portal as one of the examples.
Fabulous.
To get to
I'll make myself available for that. Yeah, man.
Look, outstanding. No, you have been a thorn in the side of these politicians because you are holding them accountable. You're saying, listen, we need value for money. You're getting the money. There must be something, where we can show to the Jamaican people that your taxpayers' money, here's how it's spent, here's the benefit, so that people understand. No, I don't want to take you too far back. I want to take you as far back as a few days ago.
Sure.
You came out with, you did a press conference. And by the way, let me just explain to some of the people who criticize the Auditor General that the Auditor General's function is not to have press conferences. And in fact, Janet, you and I had this conversation and you said, tell me one, you said to me, Wilfred, tell me one Auditor General you know of in the world who will do the audit and come out and have a press conference and criticize the government.
Not gonna happen.
Right. So then guess what, folks? That's where Janet stepped in. And she said, all right, you know what? I'm going to dig through this information. And I'm going to dig through it. And I'm going to figure out what the hell's going on. And Janet, what you said to me, which was, I remembered it, but I really didn't think about it, was you said, well, this $3 trillion that we're talking about, it did not happen overnight. There were signs about this thing going as far back as January. Could you please explain that to the public for me?
Sure. I mean, when it came out in January, it also wasn't a shock for me because I've been reading Auditor General's report. Before JAMP started, I read 41 reports. And that is what inspired me to start because I saw the quality of work. I saw the tenacity. I saw that regardless of the fact that Parliament and media and people not paying attention to them, this office just kept on doing the work for us. So in January, when the Gleaner, Edmund Campbell, excellent parliamentary reporter, came out and said, I think on the 21st of January, there is $1 trillion crisis. I smiled. I said, boy, this crisis has been going on forever. But it was very good that the Gleaner was now bringing it to light. If I can just give you an example, Ministry of Education. There's a situation that even though the Ministry of Education has not given to the Auditor General by law their accounts for the last 9 years, that represents $902 billion that we don't really know how a cent has been spent. The Auditor General still goes in regardless of the fact that they're not giving her their financials, and she audits them. She audits programs and she audits projects. One of the projects or programs that she audits is the early childhood. Everybody here know that that is how we're going to fix education, investing in early childhood. And I should say this. When you think about our budget, I'm just interrupting myself for a very important second to say, when you think of our budget, folks, that $1.3 trillion, after we pay our debt, just like our parents teach us, when you get your pay, you pay your debt first, all the way you owe people. And then you rent, and then you figure out the rest. We pay our debt first. Which sector do you think gets the largest share of the budget after we pay our debt?
Education.
And I'm sure every Jamaican listening would have said, Jeanette, that should be the place because that's how we're going to develop people's lives and this country. So education gets a whopping amount of money. And we're not getting a cent for the last 9 years in terms of reports. But the AG doesn't stop there. She goes into the projects and she audits them. Early Childhood Commission. I have looked back as far as 10 years and almost every single year without fail, there's an audit finding that says this project is overpaying people. Why? They leave, nobody makes a note of it, but they continue to pay the people that have left. Now, Will, you tell me. You make that mistake 1 year. You say, all right, come on, let's be fair, guys. People make mistakes. I make mistakes. You might even say you make it 2 years because maybe you never even hear said the Auditor General did flag it. But from 2015 till now, I think it might be about 6 times or more that the Auditor General is saying the number is increasing. The number is increasing. You have to go find these people and get back the taxpayers' money. After 1 year, 2 years, you set yourself mistake. But after that, folks, come on, man. What can go so? So I am just see you laughing, Will. So I'm just saying that I sent to Will because I wanted him to see examples and upon examples that though the Auditor General is not getting the financial, there are some hair-raising things that she's finding out every year within the Ministry of Education, the same Ministry of Health, the same Ministry of Labor and Social Security. That would shock everybody that is listening to me tonight. Shock you. You wouldn't believe that this could happen once, but the things that happen over and over and over again, it's just gross mismanagement. I call it a betrayal of the people. That's what it is.
Well, you know, I read through it last night, and you know what happened? When as I was reading, I started highlighting things. After a while, my head started hurt me.
It must.
It started hurt me. I'm just put on the highlighter and just start putting the stuff on.
It's madness, Will. You want me to show a few of them with the folks, Will?
Well, I have it right here. I have it right here. Say no more. Here it is right here. Just tell me which page you want me going on. We'll start with that.
Well,
that's the 3 trillion, right? So
yeah.
See it right? So
yeah, and you will notice that and that surprised me, that the Parliament and the Office of the Prime Minister is now on that list.
It is Office of the Prime Minister right here.
Yeah. $12 billion over the last 3 years, unaccounted for. That can't work, Jamaica. Yeah. The police is there to enforce the law. 152 billion over 3 years. I want to point out for the Jamaicans listening, all of us who, if we have small businesses and we don't follow the law, we don't respect the tax laws, there are some serious penalties and sanctions for you. If you don't respect the Companies Act and file your reports every year, there are some serious laws coming at you. Isaac can tell me if I'm wrong, but if you have a legislation and you have a requirement under these laws, the public officials, just like our private businesses, and you fail to adhere to these requirements, there are offenses under this legislation. I am supposed to be able to say you have committed a crime. If the law says after the financial year ends, 4 months after that, you must report to the Auditor General and the Parliament of Jamaica in terms of what has happened with taxpayers' funds, and you fail to do that, it's an offense under the law. I'm very comfortable saying there are some crimes that are being committed. And I don't know about the rest of Jamaica, but the other day I was driving, and I have to give enough respect to this policeman, guys. I driving down the road, my phone is on that magnetic thing on the car dashboard, and some thing make me pick up that phone. This guy, this policeman saw me like an eagle a mile away. And I tell you, the Jamaican government understands accountability. I'm so impressed. I got a ticket for $10,000. And right there on the ticket, the government is already telling me, Miss Calder, we're penalizing it to $10,000. And if you don't pay this in 3 weeks, I already know on that ticket say what, guys? Semi-court date there. Already, everything just line up. And it already tell me, if you miss that. So I ended up in court because I forgot it. And I've had a friend who police show up at his gate already and draw him to Manchester because he never paid a traffic ticket. So don't tell me the government don't understand accountability. When you and I commit an offense under the law, it's very clear what needs to be done. The vast majority of everything here that the Auditor General documents every year are offenses under the law. And there's a long list of people in government that when you ask, how is this happening? You have an internal auditor. You don't have to wait on the Auditor General. We pay internal auditors. You have a director of finance. You have a permanent secretary. I don't know if you know this, but there's a board of permanent secretaries and they meet. Who chairs that board? The cabinet secretary. That's the highest ranking public official in the land. You think he would pick this up and say to them, hold on the pace. I see the Auditor General say, you give no report for 5 years. Hold on a minute. Nothing there. The Ministry of Finance has a special role. Nothing there. The parliamentarians ultimately get this. And don't blame it on government. Who is sitting in the parliament? You should be hearing this from the opposition. You shouldn't be hearing this from civil society, you know, guys. So Will, it's the whole ladder. It's the entire ladder from top to bottom that I think has really been gross neglect and disrespect to the people of this country.
And you're talking about both sides of the ladder.
That's what
Not
exactly what I'm saying,
look.
Kevin. Both sides of the ladder, because the parliamentarians are where getting the report are not. They're in the house. The opposition doesn't have a responsibility. Let me quote something. Will, is at the very front of my report.
That's what I'm going to. I was gonna.
Please go ahead. Please
that's what I was going to. This you talk about.
It's an important statement. Yeah.
Now, this is the gentleman who is in charge of our business here. This is our prime minister, right? And I highlighted. When you sent it to me, the first thing when I see him picture, I said, "Me have to read what I'm saying now, because this is the real man. This is the
Absolutely
pro God, right?" No, folks, look at what he said. He said, "I highlighted some things for you." He said, "Oversight."
Logan,
He said,
what did I say about that thing I'm going on inside there?
Jeffrey, mute.
Jeffrey, you're unmuted.
Yeah. It says, oversight is a responsibility of every parliamentarian, and particularly the backbench, blah, 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 blah. And it goes on to say, on the issue of oversight, the government is not just the executive arm, it has statutory authority, statutory agencies and bodies that submit reports to the parliament. But here's the part that I found, and I have to big it up so everybody can read it along with me. All right. Our Prime Minister said all committees will be functional and their role is to ensure that the government keeps the commitments and promises it has made. And that way, we will see greater accountability. Now, look on the next paragraph, people. This we are talking about. Hold on there. Big it up here. Look on it. You might talk to the speaker. At the time, say, Speaker, there is a sense sometimes in the way the opposition speaks as if accountability, probity, and high moral standards is their exclusive domain, as if the government of Jamaica is intent on tricking the people and operating in a way less than the people's expectation. It will not happen under my leadership. It will not happen in this government. There is no deviation from the commitment to have the highest level of integrity, dignity, and efficiency. That is a direct quote from our Prime Minister made in the House of Representatives on September 29, 2020.
Yeah, there's a problem though.
Go ahead.
Because before you realize that you get what you pay for. And so after 100 days, that was vetoed. I just need to put that out there.
I don't think I understood that though. I said, run that by me again.
Run that by.
Yeah.
So that statement was made in 2020.
Right.
And it's since been vetoed because he came out and says, listen, you get what you pay for. Then they did not get no money. So they had to increase the salaries and saying, no, the highest integrity and probity and efficiency comes because the salary is commensurate to that statement. So the statement hasn't gone into effect as yet.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
And I'm not being facetious when I say it, but that's really the thinking behind it.
But here's the thing. He's now not talking about salaries. He's talking about accountability.
Responsibilities, yeah.
Right, accountability.
Yeah.
And don't forget that him going to even spend money and come on. And Janet, thanks for putting it in the document you sent me, the green paper, the one with the role and responsibility for ministers, I believe. There were actually two of them. But here he's talking about accountability, probity, and high moral standards. Those are things that you shouldn't have to depend on a salary to do these things. These are things you shouldn't depend on. This is not like saying, well, I'm going to try to fix your road for you. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do that. This is something that as a politician, you're going to the office. You're going to serve. This is complementing the service aspect of what you're supposed to be doing. And so when him say it will not happen under my leadership, I understand your point. But him can't run from him words. He cannot run away from the words.
And he can't run away from what is the basic role of Parliament. The Prime Ministers, regardless of how Prime Ministers come and go, The role of Parliament is set up in standing orders, and that can't change. What I found very illuminating of the Prime Minister, and I appreciated him saying it, because guys, I was a public servant. I used to go sit before PAC for answer questions. And this is something I never know Jeffrey till about 2 years ago. Hear me well on this. I always thought that it was the job of the opposition to hold the ministers in Parliament to account. Why? Because that's the only thing I see.
Checks and balances.
The Prime Minister was saying, not Nagoso. And I had only learned that maybe a year before he said it. It is the job of every parliamentarian except the ones that form the executive. So it means the whole of the opposition, Tova, Tamika, Moreland, all of the people sitting behind him are really to be holding the government. What him say? Him say it himself, you know, guys. Don't miss it. He says that, hold on, let me find it. Oversight is not only the purview and the responsibility of opposition members. Oversight is the responsibility of every parliamentarian. Every parliamentarian that doesn't form the executive. So as far as the role and responsibility, Moreland Wilson is supposed to feel free to get up and say, AG, Minister of Finance, I read the Auditor General's report. What really are going there, sir? What is the plan of action to deal with this? I never know that, because the only thing we grow and say, Jeff, is the opposition, right? And I heard, let me add this, during the budget debate this year, I heard a very senior official in Parliament, parliamentarian, telling the people of Jamaica that it's the job of the opposition is oversight. That's not true. The Prime Minister is correct. So I say that to say, I don't want to make this a JLP administration thing, because every parliamentarian should have said something before now. Every parliamentarian that's not in the executive. And that is why we'll come back and we'll continue talking about this. But I want to come back and talk about the job description. Because if there was a job description, I wouldn't live so long, Jeffrey, before I would have known that it is the job of the backbenchers, even on the government side, to hold the Prime Minister to account. That is what we're paying them for. But you and I didn't know that. It take bucking up, Miss Calder mentioning the Prime Minister saying it, you know, watch Parliament. For us to discover that's a very important thing. That's never happening, because once a government is in place, the backbenchers behind the Prime Minister are not going to do it. Not true.
Right. Listen, before I bring in the esteemed panel here, I just want the Jamaican people, all of the 762 devices were connected, and all of the thousands we watch across the globe. I'm going to show a little piece of this document. Again, folks, this document that Jeanette sent me is 70-something pages, and this is not all encompassing. There's some other things which she said we never send it yet. No, send it
tonight. Yeah.
Right. But what I want you to do, I just want to show you a couple of the examples I looked at, and one make my head start spin. All right. Look on. Look at, I don't know if I can see this one. The first highlighted one here. First highlighted one, Early Childhood Commission, overpayment to the tune of 36.5 million. Overpayment. Look at the next one.
But before you move, Will, do you see how long it's been happening for us? Since 2011. All right.
But to who? To where? That overpayment?
To the early childhood practitioners. Those who are in the system continue to get money after they have left.
Them left and them get money. So we don't know if them get it or somebody will collect it for them or what's the story, right? Now look at this other one here. Unpaid receivables. Despite adopting a receivables and debt management policy, them have a policy in 2021, you know, and the financial exposure is 44.3 million Jamaican dollars. But let me skip and go down to another. Look at this one here. This one at the top. See that? Minister of Education made payments amounting to 124 million to an entity which does not have a legal status. The purpose and use of the funds are unknown. People, come on, man. We don't have to wake up. We need 1,000 Janet out there. A fool of money, you know.
Amen.
Found the money. Look on this. $124 million paid to an entity when no legal, no legal status.
God Almighty.
And nobody don't know where the money go for. The purpose and the use of the funds are unknown. I talk to all of my minimum wage workers, them, you know. All of my minimum wage family members, all of them who not even make minimum wage. I talk to all the people out of Santa Cruz, my people, them, you know. I talk to my people in Manig. Look on this. $124 million going to a status, going to an entity when I have no legal status. Nobody know it no registered. Nobody know nothing about this. And we don't know where the money gone. As Jeffrey would have said, the money gone like Sammy Mouth. The money gone. Let me just go down. Let me just do look. Our library involved, you know. Library.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you pass the library like that. The
other one, yeah.
Other one.
Another one I said.
I know
No,
this one
all
is
right.
this one is unconscionable.
Yeah,
3 billion.
Yeah.
3 billion for the library. They not submit no annual statements of receipt and payments. So money does go, and we don't know who the money has got to for what purposes. We don't know.
Mr. Rattigan, may I?
Yes, sir.
I personally believe that some people getting money under the table for something because this can't go, sir.
Well,
No,
Miss Calder is here. What do you mean? Well, you can't talk to Miss Calder, you can't talk to the Auditor General. I say you go. I say you go.
In 24 Jamaica, $3 trillion has gone on the drain, sir.
Well, it's a 3 billion a year gone right to the Jamaica Library Service.
Over time, Jeffrey. Over time, not just one.
See another 205 million, you know, Library Service. Ministry of Education again. Look on this. Look on this at 1 year. 904 million.
That's almost
Right?
$1 billion.
Almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
Recurrent payment vouchers with expenditures totaling almost $1 billion were either misclassified, had no supporting documents or information relating to their classification. Where you people, if you run a business like this and you gone bankrupt, you know.
Correct. Well said, Will. That is the important thing here. Yeah.
But Jamaica is bankrupt.
Them tell them have money. Look, here's another one again. Early childhood development, 26 million. Early childhood development, 15 million. Ministry of Education again. Look on this, 2 billion. Look on that. Hold on.
Read that one, Will, because that is
Yeah.
key.
Yeah. This one, people. Let me big it up that for all the people who can read. Because sometimes we're not so good for the reading. See it here. It said the Auditor General was unable to verify the appropriateness of 15 recurrent journal vouchers. Recurrent, you know, meaning it go on, with total value of 2.2 billion as no supporting documents were presented for audit scrutiny. So money appear. I will have no supporting documents for this money that we appear out. And it's recurrent, meaning it's ongoing. It's ongoing. Every month, money appear out. I wouldn't know where the money will go. Jamaican people, minimum wage family members and friends, I found the money them a thing, you know. I want to sit down there. I want to just accept them.
We'll zoom it up so we can see the ear.
Oh,
zoom it up so we can see the ear.
See there, 2016.
Yeah, perfect.
2016. 2 billion, 2.2 billion. 2.2 billion recurring payment, and we don't have no receipt for sure what's going on with this money here. What's going on with this money here? You know, I'm not gonna say it yet. I have something I want to say about 28 bank accounts, but I'm not gonna say it yet. I'm not gonna say. No, I have to be honest with you. Janet.
Yeah.
I was reading this last night. I go through it and I highlight. And like I said to you before, there's a point where I just got depressed.
Right.
I'm starting to get a headache. I said to myself, no man, them numbers I can't write.
They're all right. Let me just say why it was important to provide Will with these findings is it is true what you said at the beginning. In the absence of the AG getting the financials, we can't say there is corruption. We can't say it's missing. I mean, let's face it. each of these ministries have been providing goods and services. The teachers, the schools, everything. Services are happening. But I wanted the Will and the rest of us and the rest of Jamaica to understand that while we can't say it if we don't have the reports, at the same time, the Auditor General has been auditing projects and programs and are saying, my God, these are some alarming things that we are still finding happening in these ministries. So what are the chances, I'm asking Jamaica, that in the absence of getting those finances, can we say all is well? All cannot be well. Because when we look at all the other things that she's finding, procurement, no regard for procurement laws, some of the time, overpayment of people. They have this thing in government they call environment policy. And what it means is the ministry gets, say, 100 million. They have to spend it on recurrent, which is the things you have to pay every month. Light, water, rent, utilities, salaries, those kind of things. And then you have what you call capital expenditure, more like investment projects, like road, school, whatever you're building. Now, the government set up a rule that says if you get 100 million, yes, you're going to spend 100 million and not a dollar over, but you cannot go into like the capital projects and take money out of that and just put it on salaries and say, but it's only 100 million I spend. You guys can understand why the government would say that. Because that's what was happening. When you approve a budget, people start to shift money to what? Give more salary to people. When you look at the Auditor General's reports, this goes against the financial laws that the Parliament has set. The amount of time the ministry, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, millions of dollars, she has moved from one budget item to salaries. And the Auditor General reports every year to the Parliament. 100 and odd million, 200 and this million, move to salaries. It's not allowed without the minister's approval. And it just happens in, year out. Nobody raising a red flag and say, PS, it's against the law. You can't do this. So I'm sharing all these examples to say, while we cannot say what has happened to the money, we must demand accountability, because in these ministries, we're finding gross mismanagement in some areas. And these are just some examples that we're taking out of each year for the last 10 years so that we can substantiate the fact that something has to be done.
Let me just say that when I read the report, I think it was in the Gleaner, I called Janet and she said, I'll get back in touch with you. And then I get her later on and she said, well, you know, when you see a headline like this, you know, say you can't get me, right? I'm going to say, no. I'm going to say to her, say, is this true? Is this really true? And she said, I'm going to say, Janet, I want to believe you, but I have to see the documentation. I have to see the documentation, because the numbers then where you are throughout, you know, and by the way, folks, I want you to know this. What Janet did was not simply go to the website and just copy. She went there and she dug and she analyzed and she came up with all of these things. So it's not something she just grab and then just throw it to us, right? There was a tremendous amount of work that went into what she did and the documents that she produced. And so far, I heard one person said to me that the government has said, oh, you know, it's not quite the way that you're portraying it and all that stuff. And I say, yeah, but you know what? Let them come and bring for them numbers. That's all. Just don't sit there and say, well, yeah, it's not quite that. But listen, we have a panel here, a distinguished panel. We have DJ Kevin Stew. We have Mr. President. We have Mr. Isaac. I was going to say something else, but people might say me political, so I'll leave it like that. And we have Mr. Vumvavi. Yeah, why you laugh? and that him dub himself that Mr. Vumvavi.
Yeah.
That's what him say the upper echelon of Saint Andrew. So that's where
Saint Andrew, sir.
So, gentlemen, let me start with Kevin Stew and just go down the list. Kevin, ask any question you want to ask him, Janet.
Over what period of time did you work to how long did it take you to put this together?
Not long. I don't think it passed 3 months for sure. It didn't, not at all.
Because all the information was already there.
No, because I've been reading these things for a long time. So I kind of have an idea as to where to go to get what. What I can tell you is there's nothing I put my hands on that any citizen listening can't find. That is the important thing to also say. Yeah.
So if clearly it was hidden in plain sight.
Yes, and and to say plain sight, Kevin, just quickly to state this. The Auditor General's Department, you know, I remember when I first did research into it, I needed 41 reports that I was interested in. I didn't have to call that institution and ask for one. They were all on the website, every single one. So when I say it's there, it's not hidden. As the Auditor General gives it to Parliament, the people have access to it, Kevin. So it's not hidden, but the people of Jamaica haven't really been taught where to go to find it.
So my simple thinking goes like this. If I am doing something that I am not supposed to do, and people can simply read to figure it out, then I need to make sure that in order for them to not figure it out, they can't read. Or they don't have access to it. One of the two. And clearly, since access is given, then it must be the latter. So
it could also be the one I'm saying, which is, I'd put a third in there, which is that they just don't know where to find it. They can read, they are interested, they just don't know it even exists or where to find it.
Okay, that's yeah, we can put that third one in there.
Yeah.
But if we consider that third one, then they're putting themselves more at risk, because if the other two are not met. You know what I'm saying? We have a crisis. We have an education crisis.
Yeah.
And people skirt around the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Some people mention it, some people shout it out. This, to me, gives me the why behind the education issue.
Okay. Part of it. Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. And you could be right. I can't tell.
But that is where I sit.
Yeah.
Gentlemen. Prezi, you will be next.
All right. I didn't know about the baton. Jeanette,
Yeah.
First and foremost, excellent job. And
Thank
I don't
you.
think you stated where you used to live, but I seem as if it was England. Was it England? Can you say
No, I was in the Netherlands.
Netherlands? Okay, so
Yeah.
some European country, but that's
Yeah.
pretty neat. So again, thank you for bringing this information to us, and I appreciate your work. I do have a few questions.
Sure.
However, I don't know if I'm going to get the mic again, so I'm going to kind of do a Kevin Steele interview real quick. So I know, as I said, this information is publicly available, and you pull your data from publicly sourced information. I do see, though, that on your MP radar, on your tracker, your MP tracker on your website, that Gordon House have not provided information, and then in a while. And I also noticed that most of the politicians that have skimmed through from either party have not done any kind of statutory declaration or asset declaration. So I want to get your feedback on that. Maybe your site didn't provide the information, or is it a total disregard to the requirement as politicians? Can we do have a politician here, so I can't say triction. So, and my next question, so I want you to make note of it. I know, and you mentioned that the EU and England stand behind you financially. My question, usually when a grant is given or any kind of money or funding sources, there are some requirements. Would you be kind enough to inform us as it relates to what is your responsibility to the EU? Do you have to submit an annual report, or do you have to follow and implement their interest, because they're not just going to give you money because, hey, we want to give away money. They must have some level of interest. And we do know a lot of international companies will not do business in Jamaica. We know phone calls are more expensive from Jamaica because a lot of things on the corruption index, because it really affects how people do business. But in your opinion, talk to us about these asset declaration, the EU, and also what Garden House is doing in terms of that. And I'll leave the rest of the questions for later if I get a next chance.
Wonderful. Well, let me start with the MP tracker. One of the things, for those who haven't been on it, one of the things we saw as a basic area of accountability is people showing up for work, right? That has to be the start. So if we're going to be holding our parliamentarians to account in 2018-19, when this was getting off the ground, that's just one of the places where I started. Who's in the House representing us? And so I'm happy to say that when I started asking Parliament, Mr. President, for the data, I mean, the clerk said to me, Jeanette, I know there's an access to information legislation, but you don't need it for the Parliament. This is the one place where the people, we feel obligated to provide anything the Jamaican people ask us for, because it's the Parliament of Jamaica. And I thought that was a wonderful, I'm just sharing the kind of welcome we got. People might not anticipate those things. So I want to highlight and flag the good things. That's really good governance. And so I requested 5 years worth of attendance of all members of Parliament. So that was one of the things, folks listening in, that you can find on that MP tracker for every MP. What has their attendance been for the sitting of the House on a Tuesday? And all the committees that deal with finance. Mr. President, you will not see all the committees there. JAMP is focusing on anything that impacts the people's funds. So we're not trying to look at all 16 committees. We focus on the committees and the matters pertaining to our money. So we have not had any real difficulties getting that data, but this year that was not the case. The financial year ended in March 31st. Typically, we would give the Parliament about 3 months. The reports would all be tidied up. So April, May, by June, we would have it. I'm here to say we only got it, I think it was last week. So by next week, that pop-up will come down because we will be able to populate last year's attendance. I don't know why it took so long, but I just decided that I didn't want it to look bad on JAMP, that you come to the website and you don't say anything. So I placed something there, and I advised the Parliament, Mr. President, that I'm putting something on the site to advise that the reason the site has not been updated is because the Parliament has not yet given us that data. And I'm happy to say that sign seemed to have worked because we got it. So it should be updated by the end of next week. Regarding the asset declaration, when I started looking again at the formulation of something called JAMP, I want to tell the people of Jamaica, I could get this thing called an Integrity Commission. It existed before, the name is not new. There was an office called the Parliament's Integrity Commission, and they did the same thing. So I asked for those reports, and Mr. President, if you go on the website now, you can see in the past, prior to this Integrity Commission, you could see, and JAMP could tell you, if a parliamentarian that works for us committed an offense under this Anti-Corruption Act. I could tell you if they were late in submitting their statutory, which is an offense under the law. I could tell you if there was missing information. I could tell you if they were not certified. It didn't matter who they were. It was there. Since this Integrity Commission and the gag clause, those levels of details, we are not provided with that anymore. So I've left the data up to show people what we used to receive in the past so that they can have a real comparison between the blanket nothingness we get now and what we used to get from 1973 until 2017 when that law came into power. You understand what I'm saying here? So the blank that you see now,
absolutely.
You see that blank because the gag clause says you have employees and you are no longer entitled to know whether or not they have committed an offense under this Anti-Corruption Act until they probably end up in court, and that's when you might find out about it. And the third and the last had to do with the Integrity Commission. No, sorry, the European Union. I get that question a lot. I can only tell you what my process has been. I think it's very transparent. When the EU is willing to give a grant to any civil society group, they advertise it. They tell you what their focus is. Sometimes it's corruption. Sometimes it's strengthening the democracy. Sometimes it's strengthening women. Sometimes it's the disabled, and the relevant CSOs that cater for these needs respond. JAMP submits a proposal, we compete, and we win. Now, I've been doing this since I came back home in 2013, and I have never seen or heard or experienced a case where this is what we propose to do, and the donor actually steps in and say, but we think you should do X. What they're holding me to account for, Mr. President, is everything I said in my proposal I would do, and I have a budget, and I can't deviate from that either. And everything I said I would spend. And they have rules about how I spend their money, just like government. I have to procure. If I need a consultant, it has to be done according to their rules. I can't give it to my friend. I have to audit that project with an independent auditor when it is done. Just like the AG, they're going to let the EU know if I broke any of their rules or I overspent anything and I didn't act according to their budget. So I don't know of anybody who has had like an EU intervening. The only thing they will instruct me on is that they will say at the beginning that, Jeanette, we need to see a focus on the vulnerable in society. They'll say, here are the 5 groups we consider to be vulnerable. Pick 3, right? And for this proposal, I picked the disabled, the youth, and the women. But beyond that, there's nothing else that I have been instructed to do. I'll close off this question by saying when JAMP started in 2018, it was the private sector who gave us seed money to begin. So I have a small office that came out of the private sector of Jamaica. Yeah. When I started to build that website, it was private sector members who said, Jeanette, we think this is a good idea. We'll sponsor you for a couple of months. And then the EU came in and has helped us out since then.
All right.
Yeah, right.
Mr. Isat.
Boy, my question come with so much context, Miss Calder.
Tell me.
All right. There is a 9-day wonder factor or reality in the Jamaican space. There is also the thing called ad hominem. That's where you attack people. The minute that you started to speak about accountability, and I've been here almost an hour, and before I came on, I was looking at the comment section. The minute you start to talk about the money, the social media warriors come into the comment section and they start to attack everything but the facts. So I'll say this, and I might get in, well, no, I don't think I'll get in trouble. The duties of the persons who are in there. So here's this. I'll put it this way. Money is being stolen at a high rate. And as from your end, you say, well, the Auditor General says, well, the money is missing, but we have nothing to suggest, or we have...
The money is not missing. She's not saying that.
Yes.
We have to be very clear on that, Isat. You understand the importance of words.
Money is spent.
If you have not given account for it, it just means you haven't told me what you spend it on.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, so here's what I'm saying. Yeah. When I say money is missing, meaning there's no account. Somebody cannot account for it.
That's
and
different.
In the absence of accountability, the money is missing because we don't have any.
No, Isat. Okay. I can't agree with that. Yeah, I can't.
You won't say it that way.
We do not know if the money is missing. It's like, let me just give you a quick example going back to Mr.
Yeah,
President.
go ahead. Yeah.
I have money I have to give account for, and I could have spent everything exactly in the way that it's supposed to, and I can account for it. I just have been slack about it. I'm a board, for instance, my board has not been really overseeing me. So them say, boy, we know Jeanette honest, we don't go bother. We know everything, Chris. Now, the fact that I haven't given them a report doesn't mean the money is missing. It means tomorrow, if they probably came down on me and said, Jeanette, your job is now, your job security is now in question, that report will come immediately. And that is actually, Isat, the problem we're having, is the job security that people are facing while we're in this situation. But it's not necessarily missing. So I wouldn't be comfortable using those terms. We just don't know how it has been spent. And
all right.
Let's.
All right. I'm gonna use your term.
Yeah.
The reason why you said you don't know how it's spent, but they do.
The ministry, absolutely.
Of course, right. So from my end,
yeah.
for instance, Ministry of Education.
Yeah.
There are a plethora of cases in the court where the very money that forms part of the report is on the financial end. In other words, there are people being charged for fraudulent thing. I'll go as far as practices within the Ministry of Sports. There's a trial called the In Sports trial where they're charging persons who work for bad practices through that ministry, and to cover respectfully what is they being unable to account for the money. They're saying, well, the lower level people must have done this, and so there's a case in court. Same for Ministry of Education. Mocha just lock up people from Heart Trust NTA. There was the parish council scandal with the monies. So if we're not going to say missing, we're going to say bad practices and persons not accounting. Now, the practice that follows is when the 18 years comes up. So it's the money, you're doing bad stuff, and you say, you had 18 years, which is almost like you thief too. Your bad mind, shut up. When Uno was in power, Uno do this, and there's a conversation about the practices. And I'm saying this in terms, I'm gonna ask a comment because an election is coming up, constitutionally due by the 15th of September 2025. And what we see for a concession that monies are being badly spent, wasted, whatever, is the goodie bags that comes with $20,000 give back. Here's some money, and everybody keep quiet because the government is trying its best. That doesn't account for the overspending at Cornwall Regional Hospital, just one hospital alone that forms part of the overspending, lack of accountability in that area. Now, what it is, now that we know it, would you agree that possibly in terms of the citizen, we can't, and I'm saying we, I'm including myself, we can't really worry, we hear it, but then the light bill is going to come and the water bill is going to come. School fee when you have kids, you have loans that's outstanding, and you have to feed yourself. Basic the physical needs from the Maslow's laws of hierarchy. How can we, what is the expectation? Because the government's response is, but the opposition do it too. And we know as bad as them, and plus we give you a road. And even if them are mash up, we're going to give you it back now. What is the response to that? Because the information is in front of us. I'll respectfully say, in the absence of accountability, it's thief the money.
I can go as far as saying this, ISAT, which is why I have provided the evidence that in the absence of those accounts, it's highly likely that some things have gone amiss. Highly likely.
Highly likely, yeah.
Highly likely. And I don't want you to think I'm shying away from saying it. That's the reason I have brought those Auditor General's findings to the fore. Because there are some people, ISAT, who have been saying, oh, sure, Anna said missing. They just need to report, like Anna nothing. And I'm saying, in as much as Jeanette is not prepared to come out and saying there is corruption happening, I'm saying it's very likely because we see all the other findings and concerns of the Auditor General. It cannot be that all is well. I just can't say definitively until the Auditor General tells me what her findings are. But I'm glad you picked up in sports because I'm going to make a serious point here. And Wilfred talk about the things that hurt him. I mean, this one really bothers me to the core. And I just want to set the stage of saying the people are not wrong, ISAT. This one is an issue. The gross mismanagement does extend right across the two administrations. In Sports Limited, I remember reading, I think I stopped even reading it maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But up to at least 3 years ago, the Auditor General's report was saying for 35 years in sports has been getting the public funds and has never given a report to her or the Parliament of Jamaica. 35 years. How many parties that span? So you see my point? When it comes to the issue of this public financial accountability and ensuring that the parliamentarians do their job of making sure that government gives them these reports, both parties are absolutely guilty of betraying the trust of the people of Jamaica in this regard. So this is one of the times when we say it cut cross both. So who is going to bail the cat? If the parliament is not doing it and nobody else on the ladder, is only one set of people can bail the cat, and it's the citizens of Jamaica.
I'm glad you said that. Here it is, Dorrit Elliott, who represents as a citizen, if it's a real person. This is the basic thinking of people who are frustrated. It is the post-traumatic slave syndrome effect. JLP a thief and PNP a thief. If PNP not thief, JLP not thief. They all borrowed a little trillion change. Ha, ha, ha.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say that there certainly are some citizens in Jamaica she's speaking for. But I want to tell you this, and hear me well.
Right. I just wanted to fix it. Give us the antidote. Yes.
The vast majority of Jamaicans don't agree with her. And I respect her view and her opinion, because you remember how we got taught in school, I said, common denominator, you mark this out and you mark it out, so it's the same. Not in this regard. Listen to me. The Auditor General of Jamaica is here, and my own view as a citizen, why I come off of my career path to support this institution, is because they protect our future. By protecting our assets, by telling the government how they can improve. By the way, as Isaac, the private sector of Jamaica, they pay billions to companies like PricewaterhouseCoopers and others to do what? To audit them, you know. Why are they paying millions for somebody to come in and do what the Auditor General is doing? Because their auditors are coming in to show them where they can improve. Here is a risk where people can commit fraud. Close the gap, right? Here is where you're not as efficient. If you're more efficient, you get more value out of your money. And private sector pay millions for that. An auditor is your best friend. We look at Jamaica's auditor as if them is the problem. No, that's politics talking. She's there to protect us. Now, how are we going to deal with this? The people of Jamaica who have already reached out to me, ISAT, said, Jeanette, we want our voice to be heard. But guess what happened? I want Dorrit, who just texted you that a while ago, to understand where JAMP comes from. And hear me well, Dorrit. I had to redefine who I am. And I said to people the other day, I'm not just a citizen of Jamaica. As a citizen, it's telling you where you belong. I am more interested in looking at this problem through the lens of an owner. It is actually true that all that money in the bank belongs to us. All the government's assets that the Auditor General is talking about, this thing named government, is really the people's. That's the first thing. I'm an owner. The second thing is I have to look at it through the lens, not just of a voter. Yes, I said there's an election coming up. That election is actually a hiring mechanism. I am employing 63 public officials who have to step aside, and we have to revisit who. So if I'm employing them, that makes me what? An employer. As an employer, I don't have the responsibility of a voter. A voter has one thing they have to do really almost every 4 to 5 years, dip your finger. But an employer has to be paying attention what? Far more often than that. And the last thing is, I am not just a taxpayer. A taxpayer is the person who Parliament write a law and say, you have to give me this. I see it as I am a financier, because everything that the government is going to do, I am financing it, and I want a return on my money, because that is what a financier wants. So Jeanette and the team at JAMP sees themselves as owners, employers, and financiers. So when I'm a financier and I hear that Barita or whoever is fooling around with my money, I'm going to hold somebody to account. How are the citizens going to do this? How are you going to make your voice heard? There are many ways. And call me the fool that I be, but I've been paying attention to governance in Jamaica for 15 years. And I sat every single time the people of Jamaica lean in and say, it nah go so. It does not go so. So who is really at fault here? Is it the employee, the 63 parliamentarians, or the employers? They are waiting for us to lean in on this matter, and there are several ways to do it. And I'm just going to share with you one way that JAMP has come up with. What people don't understand, and you're young in this thing as a politician, I said, but I've had politicians, one in particular who has been in this
teach
a
me.
long time. And I'm afraid to say, I sit down having a drink with him at Acropolis one day. And he said to me, Jeanette, the people think we don't listen enough. We listen and we watch everything. I said, really? Him say, yeah, man. You think we don't watch it? You call a call-in show, we are listening. You write the editor, we are listening. You only think we're not listening. So I'm saying to the Jamaican people, find any way you're comfortable to raise your voice. But JAMP has come up with a way which I think ISAT could be a game changer. And I'd like to ask Will if he could just pull it up on his website. Will, I go and just drop something in the chat? I'm going to ask if you can just bring it up to show the citizens what I'm talking about here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask everybody, if you feel me tonight and you understand, say, I am not coming from a place of politics, but really a love for this country. And I believe that if we speak up, our parliament will respond. Then I want you to use this link to go to this section on our website and make your voice heard in a special way. And let me show you why I say it's special.
All right. Kevin will take over the control of this. Kevin.
All right. Usually, I said, when you sign a petition in Jamaica, it go to this thing named government. Who knows what that is? I don't know how to call government and say, you get my petition or you think. So what JAMP has done, it is enabling citizens to talk directly, not to government, but the person they elected to go and represent them. And I told another program this morning that your representative is there to represent your views. But if you are not giving them anything to go represent, then hello. So this particular petition is one where you're going to see the letter talking about the trillion, what you think of it. You're able to click and select your MP. You're going to put your name and your email, and you're going to say to your MP, there are 3 things I need you to do regarding this 3 trillion. And if Jamaicans agree with the 3 things that JAMP are asking for ISAT, we want them to sign it, but not just sign. When you hit send, your MP is going to get your letter. And I know I've used it before, and MPs have responded to citizens. And that letter is asking your MP to say, to tell you, but when the MP gets the letter ISAT, it also goes on the record of the parliament. The clerk of the house gets a copy of every one of these that are going to be signed. So the MP is going to get it, Mr. President, but I don't want it to stay with the MP alone. I want the parliament to know that a citizen spoke to them MP. So this clerk of the house gets a copy automatically. Now, when you hit the send, a copy come to your email, Mr. President, so you know it gone. Parliament get it, MP get it. And what are you asking him for? When Kevin pulls it up, you will see. I believe that if enough Jamaicans sign this letter, that our parliament is going to realize that we've decided that we can't cross this. It must end now, and something will be done. And I said, I'm not asking for an announcement.
You want to put it up?
I must say, Jeanette,
yeah,
that it's.
Go ahead, Mr. President.
Okay.
You were saying?
I was saying it's really simple. I went on the website. I was saying it's really simple. I was able to just put in first name, last name, email, select your member of parliament, and it's really, really simple. So anybody can do it on their phone.
And you don't have to add your last name. Very importantly, because we know some Jamaicans are more vulnerable. You don't even know if you put in your last name. You have to put in your first name. And then you send it off. All right, bring it up for me, guys. We can blow it up a little.
Yeah, Kevin, big it up.
Go ahead and click that accept.
Okay, hold on.
Well,
see, Ja?
Yeah.
I want to big it up, Kevin.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
So there's a...
All right.
Yeah, that's a good. Nice. Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it spells out the problem. And as Mr. President said, scroll a little for me. Your first name, your email, and your MP. You're clicking the MP for me a second, guys. Let me just show them what comes up.
Oh, you can't see it. On my screen.
Oh.
No, I think on my screen I can see all the names of the MPs.
Okay, it doesn't come up here. All right, so you will just click. But when you go to the bottom, let us see what we're asking your MP to commit to. It says, as my MP, I ask, what concrete action will you commit to take to ensure, 1, we receive answers for this level of neglect, 2, to ensure that the government provides Parliament with a plan of action, including timelines to correct the illegality, which is what these are, and 3, to ensure that the responsible public officials are held to account. So you are asking your MP, who you have empowered to do these 3 things, how is he gonna commit? The Parliament will get that record, the MP will get that record. They may or may not answer you. This has been used before, and people have gotten in touch with me and said, Jeanette, you know, me shocked my MP actually write me back and tell me something, you know. So this is you communicating both with your representative and the Parliament on this issue. This is how the voice of the people can get heard in a way in which there is a record on the House ISAT. You follow me? And that is a very important thing, that we have a record.
This is significant, but I just have to jump in here, and I'm not being cheeky.
No, go ahead.
Some of the MPs can't read and write.
That is being cheeky, I thought, my God.
Oh, no, this is factual.
What?
Some of them can't even construct a proper sentence. How will they be able to represent?
Well, that is why then you should say JAMP is a good thing that you're sending it to the Parliament.
No, I'm glad it's going to the Parliament, but I'm saying this is one mechanism, but the reality is that we're at an impasse where representation at the level that is necessary, especially with the salaries that people are collecting. How do you deal with the situation where you just simply don't have proper representation? Mind you, you know, in context, the Representation of Persons Act doesn't disqualify somebody for not having the capacity. But what in terms of, I'm putting in context what you have rightfully said about it's not just dipping finger and it's not just paying taxes. It's you are the employer. This is your country. This is your bank account. This is your business that 63 people will be running. So now this is a conversation about capacity. And I just want some context with that, because I can see people saying, how are you going to do this? And people just sitting there and probably take up a chair and swing it at the wife again or something. I don't know.
Well, let me tell you, change don't happen overnight, at least not change the way I want it to. So how I'm seeing this is that as Jamaicans begin to have a better understanding of the job of the MP, they will actually be in a better position to assess the capacity of the person in front of them. You see, this discussion about the money, a lot of Jamaicans have said to me, you know, Jeanette, but me never know, say my MP have to read them kind of report here. I had a lady said to me the other day, saw me in the supermarket, but Miss Calder, if it's my job and my MP to read them reports, them understand financial reports, you get me, Will? She's raising a very important question. So the matter of training or coming to the job with this capacity, she was never thinking of it before until she learned that this is something they were supposed to do. So I understand why Jamaicans might think it's okay, ISAT, if he's illiterate. If all they think that the MP is supposed to do is come in the constituency and ball out for them, you don't need to be literate for that. But the more Jamaicans really understand that this is the most important job in the country, that's how I see it. I believe that 1, they're going to be joining me in demanding that job description, and 2, ISAT, that's when the change happens. They can begin to say, well, that brother, you're not ready for the job, man. Now me understand the job. And that's where change begins to take place, guys. You understand what I'm saying, Kevin? It makes sense?
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Mr. Vumba V, we are run out and Janet, look, I have to call you offline, but I mean, the conversation, if it's too much people inside that ask questions, Mr. Vumba, jump in, brother.
Will, is there a way to share the link with the team that's here for the information? 700 Jamaicans. Is there a way to show them how to get to it? Maybe on the web.
Yeah, we're putting it in the chat. We're putting it in the chat right now.
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah.
Miss Calder.
I love that name.
But if you remember the first time you came on my program, I used the A's. He said to me, Jeff, what on earth that means? You remember the first time? Yes.
I love it.
My question to you is this, and I don't know if I'm asking the right question.
Go ahead.
Do you think Mocha should involve in this?
Well, I'm going to answer the question this way. That matter is that Mocha just came down on this week. I am very happy to tell Jamaicans in this room that Mocha picked up that from an Auditor General's report. You see how it works, Jeffrey? So the Auditor General raises the red flag, shows enough to another anti-corruption agency that this is a matter that needs a closer look, and they zoomed on in. This is the system that our parliament designed, and it's working for us. Yes, my answer is yes, Jeffrey. There is an aspect of it that Mocha is going to look into. Mocha can't look into all of this one time, but they're going to have to take a look, I think, a closer look at these reports. Clearly, they're already looking, which is why I said they went into that NHT matter. But I don't know to what extent and the capacity they have. But some of it, I think, is going to warrant Mocha. And let me tell you, let me be a little clearer. As the reports come in, and they must, right? They must. The Auditor General will now have financial reports, and maybe she will be able to see, Jeffrey, why it was taking so long. Are you following me? And she will provide the findings that ISAT claim he thinks is already clear. And then Mocha can come in to determine exactly what they need to now go and pinpoint. That's how this thing works. Yeah.
But we also have to say to ourselves, if Mocha even go in, is the Director of Public Prosecution gonna Jeffrey shut him out? Gonna allow, for this to go through? Because based on what we're seeing now, and I think message of stop saying it. I don't think I really don't trust our justice system.
I want you to leave our justice system alone. And I don't know, let me, Mr. Vava from Upper St. Andrew person, you. How do you get to the Director of Public Prosecution? There's no complaint.
Well, I have one, ISAT. May I share with you what it is? Yeah.
Yes.
In the very same documentation that Will has, I think one of the things that has hurt me, and you might say to me, Jeanette, why not one of all? I don't know. But back in 2018, I was reading an Auditor General's report. And it was on the National Insurance Fund. And I'm going to bring it right back to the DPP and tell you why Jeffrey has a point.
Okay.
The DPP, the National Insurance Fund, the Auditor General did an audit. And it still shocks me to this day. Because in short, $3.4 billion was invested in a number of Jamaican companies. Nothing wrong with that. They invest the money. But they invested this money, ISAT, and based on the documentation and the audit that the Auditor General did, the investment committee inside the National Insurance Fund did not give an approval, wasn't aware. The permanent secretary was not aware. The Ministry of Finance is $3.4 billion I'm talking about, The cabinet of Jamaica didn't know. No, the cabinet, let me just say it for the listeners. When I was in government, and still, I think it just changed this year, you couldn't spend $60 million without your prime minister and the cabinet saying you're good to go. How did an investment committee in the National Insurance Fund invest $3.4 billion in companies without due diligence? There was no evidence that there was any. Without all of those people who must know, knowing. The FID investigated the matter, ISAT. Because from where I sit on the Auditor General, there's something seriously wrong with that. The FID submitted their report to the DPP, and from all that, I understand, it was a case that was heading to court. My understanding, and I have no difficulty saying the FID said I could say it, the FID was told this case is prosecutable. It was easy. That doesn't sound like an easy case to you. We know who they are. We know what they did. We have the documentation. And the DPP's office, under the former DPP, said, here is an area you have to go and tighten up and bring it back to us. The FID went and tightened up what was already prosecutable. And by the time they came back last year, suddenly the DPP said this case can't prosecute. Sorry. Now, how that sound to you, Mr. Buchanan?
Can't be prosecuted on what grounds?
Well, that is where I am in the process now, still trying to find out from both of those organizations what are the grounds. Well, I can tell you this though, Kevin, the FID doesn't have an answer up until the last time I spoke to them, and I'm still trying to get the latest. So I can't tell you what it is. But based on that story I just gave you, does that sound like something that we should not be able to take public officials to the court over?
So here's the problem. There, boy, Miss Calder, them said it for me tonight. There, when one wonders why was there a push to keep a certain person in office, if you know Section 94 of the Constitution, Mr. Rattigan has done this. The powers and decisions of the office holder is final, no matter how you feel. So somebody can just, a police officer can just see a Rasta man and scalp them, and they say, well, it don't look like a scalping, it's just a little hair pull out thing, case done, and nothing happens in the criminal realm. That is a legislation issue, because even FID sometimes don't have the teeth to do what they need to do. You see, the Integrity Commission has done its job, and here there is a judgment from the court in relation to the Prime Minister's judicial review. And the same people who you say the backbenchers are there, parliamentarians are there, and the question now is to ask, how many of them can read that document, says something is not right and we should speak out? But then they can't, because there's about 7 more who are in similar situations with illicit, and then people put their people in places, and these things that where the nepotism reigns is why we have an issue. I'm only raising this aspect of it because when somebody says they don't trust the justice system, I think the judiciary is solid. And when parliamentarians, remember, when they make the law, they make it to ensure that the law can beat them the way it beat them. And we as citizens have to appreciate that your lawmakers aren't making law that's going to put them in prison tomorrow, i.e. an impeachment legislation. That should be the first order of business. It should probably be a part of a referendum. Should we have an impeachment bill tomorrow? Things like that. And so in the absence of that, we are seeing the gaps in the investigative process, the issues about going to Parliament to speak about it before it goes where it's supposed to go. I mean, the Auditor General's report it's telling, it's appalling, and it is a deciding factor in the very next election.
I'll tell you what.
It may very well be that both sides need to shatter the bricks.
And I'll tell you what, Isaac, you mentioned the Integrity Commission report, and we have another guest.
Hold on, Mr. Rattigan. I didn't finish asking Ms. Calder the questions, And
Ms. Calder losing her voice, so we have to wrap soon.
my question to you now,
yeah.
Where do we go from here? Where do the Jamaican people, where do JAMP go from here? Where do we go from here? With all of this 3 trillion that's gone like a salmon mouth, which I thought you said, no, we must not say that. But, it is in front of our face. To me, it gone like a salmon mouth. Where do we go from here, Ms. Calder?
Saying it doesn't make it true, Jeff, but we can only go the only place a citizen can go, and that's just the truth. And until we do it, we don't know if it will work. And I'm saying, Jeff, I've seen many instances where government make a decision and the people feel differently. When we found a way to raise our voices, it made a difference. I'm just saying, you keep doing what you do, Jeff. Make sure the folks get an opportunity to hear you. Keep on pressing it. If we stop talking about it, the citizens turn with us to, because you have a talk show. Keep talking about it. Let me tell you. You see the document I shared with Will? Will only touch 10% of it. There are different things in here to be discussed, Jeff, and I'm more than willing, as you know, to come on and unpack different aspects of it. So let's keep the conversation going. The trick has always been to let the conversation die. And once you were part of the media, it dies on your mic, it dies in the minds of the people as well. So Jeff, keep talking about it. I have some other research I have done that demonstrate what government has done in the past that actually has worked, that they have never done since in dealing with these issues. We can talk about it another time. But I'm just saying, let's use this as an opportunity. Guys, let me just say this. Every time I'm on the show, every time you see me, it's probably a bad sign because something has gone wrong in governance. But every time something goes wrong, my way of approaching this is to try to educate the people of Jamaica. So there's a silver lining, Will Gratigan. I believe that after this long discussion, there are people who understand the Auditor General's work better, understand the PAC, understand a couple of things. So listen, guys, something has shifted just here tonight, and I'm grateful for it. So Jeff, there is a silver lining. So let's keep talking about it. Let people keep calling in. Let people write the editors of the newspaper. Let people do what? Click on JAMPs. This is a very significant one, guys, because this time it is, sometimes we talk to ourselves. We spend hours on social media. This link is allowing you to talk to the parliament and the powers that be. And not because we do it. We do it because we know this will also make a difference. And that's it. There's nothing else you can do. We can't fire them yet, right? We can't fire them yet. And in any case, let's be reasonable, guys. We can't fire the whole parliament, and the whole parliament and lots of elements of the public sector. This is a dysfunction. So Jeffrey, it's not even a case that we could fire. We can't fire the amount of people we would need to fire to hold responsible for this. So let us, as the employers and the owners, demand a plan of action, which is what I've said here, that we can come every month or 3 months. Will can come back and say, tick, 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 it's going well, or it's not going well, and we ball out again. Yeah? We don't want no announcement. We don't want no speech. We want a plan of action as to how this is going to fix.
Well, Jeanette, let me just say that it's been very inspiring, very informative, and I'm sure you mentioned it, a lot of Jamaicans are now understanding the role of the Auditor General and your role as well, and they're understanding the information.
All our roles. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the conversation will continue because I'm getting phone calls like crazy saying you have to bring it.
Wonderful. That's
so
wonderful.
You and I'll give you a call tomorrow and then we go.
Yeah, man. I will see where we take this discussion next. Yeah.
Indeed.
Thanks, guys.
I'll give you a call, Mr. Craig.
I appreciate it.
Right, take care.
All right. Why we could talk to Janet for days. I mean, she's in addition to just being personable, she's highly intelligent. She knows this thing inside out. If you're talking about an expert on government and good governance, this is the person you want on your thing to talk to, on your program to talk to. Listen, we have with us a gentleman who is going to talk to us about the Prime Minister. Where is he? Oh,